Hey, Sunshine.
Good.
Hey, Sunshine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a true special edition of Conversations with Celena. We're approaching the very ends of Black History Month. So this is just to bring forth some information and education that we all can learn from. So I'm super excited about each and every guest that I have on tonight. They have each something special to bring to the table. I hope that you all enjoyed this episode, but also can learn from this episode. My beautiful co-host, Vinny Scott, is with me tonight. So you'll be hearing from her. And let me just look over here at I'm going to go in order. We have Shawn Ducre-Jackson. Okay, girl. And then we have Miss Gwen Williams, aka Miss Chocolate.
Hey,
Chocolate. And then also we have Brenda Davenport Taylor. Hello, Miss Brenda.
Hello.
We have above Miss Brenda, Mr. Troy Scott. Hello, Mr. Troy. And then right next to me, we have Daniel L. Baker. So I am, again, super excited about each one tonight being here with me. They said yes last minute. So just to give you a little bit of background, I thought I was going to do something earlier, but I reached out to each and every one of these individuals and they said yes. So I have already said thank you before we went live, but I want to publicly give them a sincere, thankful appreciation, gratitude to you all. All right, so we're not going to delay any longer. We want to just jump in and get started. Behind me, you may or may not be able to see some slides. I don't know, but I'm trying to get to the side. I'm not going to say any of them just for the sake of time. We want to give each and every person an opportunity to speak. All right, so we're going to start with Miss Shawn. So I'm going to say that her favorite two quotes: when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. I'm going to say that again. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. Hello, y'all. Shawn, take yourself off mute a second. Say the author of that quote.
Audre Lorde.
I thought so, but I didn't want to mess it up because some things are pronounced differently. And then don't chase anything except drinks and dreams. That's unknown. All right, I love it. My name is Shawn Ducre-Jackson, she says, and she is the writer and creator of Unwaveringly and Unambiguously Black Trivia Game. I just found that out, y'all. We were going to play Black Trivia on here, and we're still going to do that. But I said, oh, I'm going to get the game. And she says, well, when we were talking and she was giving me about her background, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, you created it? She was like, yes, I created it. So y'all, I was just, I'm extra. So I was completely extra with that. I don't know why I'm reading it like that. She is originally from Picayune, Mississippi, and she's lived in Houston, Texas for 20 years. And she shared the link for the video. I'm not the video, the
website
for the trivia. See, I'm in the house with boys, and all they do is video games. And as soon as I said the trivia game, I was like, wait a minute. All right, so Shawn, what is it that you have that you would like to share with us on tonight in reference to Black history?
I first, so again, I'm Shawn Ducre-Jackson. I'd like to just share our vision statement so you can get a little bit of a better idea of what the intention was behind the trivia game. So, unwaveringly and unambiguously Black is firmly rooted in our commitment to cultivate a space that stimulates, inspires, and honors us. We will remain uncompromising in our efforts to ensure that Black experiences are the forethought and not the afterthought, that we are celebrated and not merely tolerated. We invite you to revel in a vibe thoughtly crafted with love, pure intentions, and the strength of our ancestors. Welcome home. And what all of that means is throughout my education until I attended an HBCU and then educating myself as an adult, most of the knowledge that was presented to me was very white centered, very based on a white historical perspective. Everything from entertainment to education to games is all very representative of other cultures and not usually centered on Black culture, unless our culture is being appropriated or stolen or borrowed by other cultures for them to profit from. And I got tired of seeing that. I got tired of attending trivia nights because I love trivia, I love games, and got tired of attending those types of events and it being rare to get a question that was centered around our experiences. So I wanted to change that. So I wrote and created this game to honor both our ancestors and our current culture because our culture is beautiful, past and present. Our pain has, we've used our pain to create so many beautiful things. That other cultures have not been able to do and haven't had the sustainability that we've had and the perseverance. So I wanted to share with you all. I have questions. We can either do this live and people can randomly answer questions just to give you an idea of what it's about. Sunshine said just kind of let this flow. So it's a little bit hard because I can't see anyone anymore. So I can read questions and anyone can either chime in. So no Googling, no looking up the answers. But if you know the answer, either ping the chat or just say it out loud if you believe you know the answer. Sunshine, does that work for you or do you prefer another format or?
So we can go with a round of questions if
Okay.
everyone is in agreement with that so that we can see. Yeah, okay, we got thumbs up. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. I'll take it easy on y'all. I read the audience. I said, let me pick a few based on the region and then a few others that you all
And this
may
is
know.
for the actual audience too. So if you know the
Okay.
answers, put it in the comments. Ask the question and let's see. Oh, that's not how it works. It's kind of like, can you just ask the questions and
Yeah.
okay.
No, I'm just gonna ask. So yeah, if you see people in the chat,
Okay,
responding,
gotcha.
just let me know.
Okay.
So I'll read the question and then give everybody about 10 seconds or so to answer and give people time to chime in. And then if no one knows, I'll give you the answer.
You'll help us out.
Right. Feel free to guess. So just throw something out if you're not sure. We're all having fun. So is everybody ready?
Yes.
We ready, girl. We ready.
Okay. Question 1. So this is random knowledge. Which state has the most HBCUs?
Look like David. Daniel, did
Look
you?
like Daniel. You took
That's
yourself
what I
off
thought
mute,
he
Daniel.
did.
I'm not gonna try. I got to guess. I'm not gonna try.
Try
Texas.
Go for it.
I want to say
Texas.
Georgia, Texas.
No.
I think it's Virginia.
That could be a
No.
good one.
Got one more try. I'll give y'all the answer.
Carolina. South.
No. The correct answer is Alabama.
Alabama.
Wow.
I'm gonna say
Wow.
Mississippi.
I
Okay.
should have known it. I knew it was South.
All right, question 2. So we have sports for this question. So name the 3 black quarterbacks who've won a Super Bowl.
I know this one, I think.
Okay, Miss Brenda.
Doug Williams.
Yes.
Um, don't tell me. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson.
Yes.
And let's see.
This one's very recent.
Oh man.
Fair-skinned gentleman.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. Oh, don't tell me.
Russell.
Don't tell
Russell.
me. Don't tell me. Yeah.
Russell, right?
No.
Russell.
I said Russell. It was somebody. Give me a letter. Give me a letter. I know this. I know this.
His first name starts with a P. I feel like
Does
Daniel
his last name start with an M?
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and say it.
Say it.
Is it Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes.
When he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely.
When Kansas City won the Super Bowl?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years
Yeah.
ago.
It did?
Yeah.
I ain't
Patrick Mahomes.
I thought they lost that Super Bowl.
How
I
about
ain't
2
think
out
he
of 3?
won
Not
that yet.
bad, huh?
You actually, yes. That's the name of the category. So you would have gotten 2 points.
All right.
All right. Question 3. So I was also, my daddy's from Louisiana, so I spent some time in Slidell too. So this question is for any Louisiana people on. So what popular street in New Orleans is named after the Greek muse of epic poetry? What popular street in New Orleans is named after the Greek muse of epic poetry?
Calcatulas.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Oh, no. Close.
Not magazine, huh?
Canal?
No, I'm gonna say
If it's close to Chapel
Say
2,
Greek, right? You say Greek.
Greek Decatur?
No.
give us a letter.
Starts with a
Yeah.
C.
Oh, Claiborne.
No. No.
Claiborne's the
Calliope.
governor.
Yes.
Calliope. I mean
Callio. Or
Calliope. Yeah, that's
Calliope.
it.
Gondolette is what I would have said.
Calliope. Yeah.
Miss Brenda's in the lead so far. All right.
Woo.
Okay, so question number 4. Felicia Rashad and Debbie Allen spent part of their childhood in this country in order to escape racism in America. Felicia
Well, I never
Rashad
knew.
and Debbie Allen spent part of their
Lucky
childhood
sister.
in this country in order to escape racism in America.
France?
I didn't know
It's
that.
European country?
Yeah, I
Was it
should've.
a European country? No
No,
European country? Africa?
Think South.
Think South.
North America.
Louisiana?
Country, babe.
You say country, huh?
Oh, South in the country?
South America.
Give y'all a hint. South
Haiti.
of Texas.
What?
South of
Haiti.
Texas.
South to what?
Mexico.
Yes, Mexico.
Mexico.
Okay.
I should have known, yeah.
Miss Brenda, go ahead,
All
Miss
right.
Ted.
Miss
How many I
Brenda.
got now? How many I got?
You got a
Like
little
3.
help on the assist, right? So you got 2 points for the first one. I think that's 4.
Yeah, 4.
And I'll give 1 and then a bonus question in case we have a tie.
All right.
Who said the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house? What author said the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house? I can give y'all a hint. If anybody was paying attention, it's the same person whose quote I said is one of my favorite quotes. That's red.
Audrey Lord.
Audrey Lord.
Oh.
And
All right,
last
Daniel.
question. Excuse me. So we'll end with one last sports question. So
I'm gonna order this as soon as we get off the line.
know,
I'm gonna
right?
order this game.
I'm stumping y'all. I like it. So last question. Which two NBA teams won every championship between 1991 and 1998? Which
Chicago
And the
Bulls.
Houston Rockets.
All right, Daniel. Absolutely. The Bulls and the Rockets.
I was going there too. Y'all give me a chance. That's all right. Okay.
Sports.
So that
Yeah,
kind of
Bulls
gives
and
y'all an
Houston.
idea of what it is. You can play in different ways. People play on teams. People play as couples. You can have one family against another. So however people want to play, you can adapt it to your own rules. But there's sports, there's history, there's literature, there's a little bit of everything. So I just wanted to give y'all an idea. Because I know when, again, growing up, Black history was generally MLK. You read the
Mm-hmm.
you heard the
Yep.
same history.
Yeah.
And our history is so much richer than that, and we can have
Yeah.
fun with it. We can
Way
learn
much
all
richer than
different
that.
types of things. So
Yep.
I
So
hope
much.
y'all enjoyed. If anybody has any questions for me, chime in. But I just wanted to share that with y'all.
Well, can you let them know where they can get the game?
Absolutely. So if you go to unwaveringlyblack.com, you can order the game there. So again, unwaveringlyblack.com. One sec, I can't. Did everybody get that? I hope I didn't cut out. And again, any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. It'd probably be easier. I'm also on social media, but not really. I prefer not to be quite honest with you. But you can email squad@unwaveringlyblack.com. Or you'll see the information on the site where you can just reach out and send a message also.
Historical Black Archer.
Is that it? Did I get it right, Shawn?
That is perfect. And we
Okay.
also have free shipping. So again, order, have fun with it. Give me feedback if you have any, but I really, really enjoyed this.
No, we did too. I did. Like, I'm excited about getting it.
Thank you.
Because I know here on Thursday nights, I just found this out because I had a meeting not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before. They have trivia every night at this restaurant on Canal Street here in Pekin.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Kim involved with that? Is that what she mentioned, or is that something else?
That may be something else. I'm not sure. I've never attended the trivia, but I know that they have it.
Gotcha.
So, well, thank you so much. That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Miss Brenda, what do Sunshine? What do Miss Brenda win for winning the trivia?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I get?
That would actually be on me. I'll take the hit for this one. If you have a favorite Black-owned business that you want to, I want to keep it, Black history. So if you have a favorite Black business you like to patronize, whether in Picayune or anywhere else, and they have like an electronic gift card I can send you, I can get your information from Sunshine, and as the winner, I will send that to you.
Okay.
Yay! Go ahead on, Miss Brenda.
Or you can just drop it in the chat, so I'll have it either way, but I'll definitely get it and send it to you. So your choice. Send me your choice.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we're gonna go in order. Miss Chocolate is next, right there on the screen. And Vinny, do you have her bio up? Do you want to introduce Miss Chocolate?
I do. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Miss Gwen Williams, affectionately known as Miss Chocolate. is an inspirational author and storyteller. She has shared her story with many schools throughout the county and in Canada to boost self-worth and self-esteem. She is the author of a series of children books, Effie and his encouraging F words. Ben Cross the Tracks is her autobiography depicting her journey from Louisiana to Mississippi and many points along the way. Her skills as a gifted writer can be found in many magazines, devotional books, newspaper articles, and her own self published book. And I can tell you, she is amazing. We During the Black History Month, with the Picayune Carver Cultural Center, we've been going around doing Black History, but Miss Chocolate has done some things with me. She did one of the MLK programs, and she just recently did the library, and I tell you, she's amazing. So, Miss Chocolate, you have it.
Welcome, Miss Chocolate.
Well, hello. This is really exciting for me to be here and to meet some of you that I don't particularly know, but I am just so excited. I am in love with that game, and I promise you I'm going to get it. But just to know the amazing talent that we have here in Picayune is just mind-boggling. Like she said, I'm a writer. This is my my bio is called "Been Cross the Tracks," and most of us, especially all over the world, you can find us because you have to go across the tracks. So I wrote this book called "Been Cross the Tracks" because in my neighborhood, all of us live on our side of the tracks. That's where the school was, the church was, Miss Pearl's store. And very few of us ever dared to venture across the tracks. So one fine day, I went across those tracks, and I journaled this journey across the tracks. And my racism that I have dealt with has been mostly in the church, of all places. And to watch God work through people has been just amazing. And after Hurricane Katrina moved me here to Picayune, my relatives, they say, "Oh, don't go there. That's a terrible place. That's an awful place to go. The people in Mississippi are racist." And God said, "I need you to go there." And I moved here, and I searched for a church where I could use my gifts or whatever. And God led me to First Baptist Church here in Picayune. And everybody was totally against it. They say, "Why don't you go to one of your own churches? Why don't you be with your own people?" And I thought about that, prayed about that. And the day I joined that church, God said, "I need you to love these people." And I'm trying to figure out, I say, do what? Not just the people at First Baptist, but the people at Rosa Sharon that I've gotten to be friends with, from Resurrection Life, uh, and several other churches. First Baptist Church, First Cornerstone Church that was down the street from me. Had a chance to do ministry there with Pastor Robinson. And I'll say this, and I mean it from my heart. I believe God is doing something here in Picayune. And I believe that what he's doing is going to make a difference everywhere else. One of my programs that I was able to implement using many of the churches in this area is to come together, blacks, whites, Baptist, Catholic, whatever, to come together for just a night of praise and prayer, which was just really beautiful. Today, I told stories at the, we have what we call crossover basketball with all of the children in Pearl River County come. And I love it. I love telling stories to the kids. Many of them want to know our history. One of my greatest rewards, and Vinny had an opportunity to have me as, is to portray Harriet Tubman at the schools. I had no idea that woman, the magnitude of her life, of how much she meant to our history, how much she really, really encouraged even us today. And many of our kids, I was out at Heritage School Wednesday, and some of the little second graders said that they had studied about Harriet Tubman. And we have many hidden figures that our kids don't even know about. And many of our African American children, it's not being taught in the schools. So I've enjoyed playing Harriet Tubman just to give our kids an understanding of this lady who once she got her freedom in 1849, she could have stayed in Philadelphia. She didn't have to reach out to nobody else. But she said, I can't be satisfied being free myself. I got to go back. And that's very important. Very, very important. And she went back and made those trips to free many people. Over 300 slaves she freed with her Underground Railroad. So I've enjoyed doing that. My latest project that I took on 2 years ago during the pandemic, normally I write Sunday school literature for our African American churches. Now that has really been a blessing, but when the pandemic hit, I sort of like, I took a hiatus from there. And so the Lord laid it on my heart to write Christian romance novels. That is way out of my league. That is something that I don't know anything about. I don't do fiction. I am definitely a nonfiction writer. But the Lord laid that on my heart. And my purpose in doing Christian romance is so our kids, all of them, can understand God's design for romance. I mean, in Mississippi, the majority, a lot of our kids come from single parent families. They come from homes without a father. They come from homes that's lacking in the love that a home should have. And so I took a chance and started writing. And this is my first one. It's called Wavel. And then I've written one for boys called Lonnie, and another one called DJ. And then I'm working on the final one with called Yvonne. And in these books, stories so comparable to our kids, that they can understand it does not matter how you start, it's how you finish. And that the source of romance comes from God. And my books are available. They're available on Amazon.com. You just click on Gwen Williams, and you can go to Amazon.com and order any one of those books. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I was trying to get that on the screen. I was over here typing. Let's see, Miss Chocolate. Thank you so much for sharing. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay. So y'all, I've been talking all night, but it's been on mute. I hear myself though. I hear some feedback. Do y'all hear that also?
There's an echo.
Ooh, Vinny, you want to?
I think it's the whole thing is on the echo.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, hold on for a second.
So, it's gonna drive me crazy. Okay, they over there working. Oh, it's gone. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce Miss Brenda. Thank you, Miss Brenda. Brenda, something. Oh, they're separating. That might fix it. Okay. So Miss Brenda Davenport Taylor is a gifted singer and songwriter who appreciates multiple musical genres. She also has a great love for Mississippi and debuted an original song titled My Hometown of Picayune when she was the headliner for the Picayune Blues Out in 2010. She produced and directed 3 podcasts for Wake Up Picayune, a talk show format that she co-hosts with her 4 sisters. The shows can be viewed on YouTube. Most recently, Brenda released her latest video for the new single, Mississippi Shout Out. Her desire is to spread the rich culture and her sentiments of the great state of Mississippi. The essence of the state, as she sees it, comes to life via this song reference of the Magnolia State, Mississippi blues, Southern hospitality, and the warm climate. She hopes that not only Mississippians, but the country will embrace this catchy tune, causing listeners to jump to their feet and do the Mississippi Shuffle. Brenda is a physical therapist, and of course, she sings to her hospital patients, bringing them so much joy and lifted spirits. Brenda for the past 10 years has coordinated Black History programs at her church, Anointed Dove in Picayune. She has a great passion for studying Black history and acknowledges the accomplishments that Blacks have made worldwide. Thank you so much. Okay, Miss Brenda, you can take it over.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm excited about being here with you all tonight. When we think about Black History Month, I wanted to have a reference point from whence my ancestors came. The farthest I could trace them back was to Alabama. So I did an African ancestry DNA test. And what it does, it traces the heritage back from 500 to 2,000 years. So the African DNA test is a little different than a lot of ancestry tests in that it has over 33,000 samples of genetic material of African tribes, African people, and African people. So what I did, I took the African DNA test, and the test not only gives you the country that your ancestors were from, originated, but it also gives you the tribe. Now, the test takes about 2 to 3 months to get the results because they do very detailed analysis. Like I say, they have over 33,000 samples of DNA samples. And so they match your sample with the samples that they have in their bank. And they have like 99.9% accuracy in telling you what country and what tribe you're from. So I did this in 2019, I think it was. And it came back that, well, you can take the test on your maternal or the paternal side. So I did my mother. So that meant the test results were for on the mother side. So this test traced it, a female that I'm related to, back to the country of Sierra Leone. That's where our family has roots in Sierra Leone. And my family is a member of the Mende tribe in Sierra Leone. And Sierra Leone is one of the smallest countries in West Africa. And it's famous for its white beaches and its the beaches, and it's a very important tourist site in Africa. And it was the subject of a movie that some of you might remember called Blood Diamonds, because it's one of the countries with a large diamond supply, and the diamonds are used to fight for revolution. That's what it called, blood diamond, because the money was used for weapons for war. So I was so excited about finding out that we were from Sierra Leone and we're members of the Mende tribe. So I have a certificate of authenticity that shows that we're from the Mende tribe. So my family, and we did a presentation at Anointed Dove for Black History Month. So the year after my family did traced ours, I was interested in getting other families. So I spearheaded testing for the Jones family in Picayune. So I ordered the test and I went to their mother's house. The mother was in the bed sick, but I just wanted to take, I mean, she was very, she was very cooperative. So I did the little cotton swab and I did the test, sent it off, and waited 3 months. And they came back from their ancestors from a country called Mali, Mali. So, and then last year we did the Rawls family, Reverend Rawls and his family, and they traced their ancestors traced from Nigeria, and they are members of the Yoruba tribe. And just last Sunday, we did the DNA results for the Ratcliffe Coleman family, and they have ancestors from Cameroon. They are members of the Bamaliki tribe. And so I have a point of reference. And so last year I was thinking, well, we at the church, we had everybody dressed in African attire, and we had flags. Now this is the flag right here for Sierra Leone. And we dress up in African attire. We serenade, come through the church. We do national anthem of the country, and we do a presentation like I just did, kind of like give you some little information about the country. So last year, after we got the information, I was like, okay, so we know we're from Sierra Leone. Now what? I have the certificate on the wall. I can wave my Sierra Leone flag. So I wanted to know, I said, I wonder when is Sierra Leone's Independence Day? So I researched it and I Googled it, and I found out that Sierra Leone's Independence Day is April the 27th, which is the birthday of one of my younger sisters. So, and then I have another sister whose birthday is April the 30th, two nieces whose birthday is April the 13th, and a niece-in-law whose birthday is in April the 24th. So I decided to have a Sierra Leone Independence Day celebration along with the family celebration. So I rented a hall. We had a nice banquet hall, and everybody, we invited a few friends, and everybody had African attire. We had African food cooked by my niece and some other who is from Africa. And we just had a fantastic celebration. And so my desire is that more families will want to trace their ancestry. And I can kind of like spearhead it for the different families. Now the test is $300. And so what's happened previously, I purchased the test and, I'm reimbursed by the families. And so, I like I said, I've done about 3 families, and each year for the last 3 years for the Black History Month, we featured a family. But I was thinking we don't really have to wait till Black History Month to showcase our, do the tracing of our roots. And I was thinking it would be nice for the summertime when Pig's families are doing the family reunions. Do the test, find out what your ancestry is, find out the different foods for that country, and just have a big celebration. So if anybody's interested in tracing their African DNA roots, you can, contact me. I'm on social media, Brenda Davenport, Brenda Taylor. And it's my desire that a lot of families in Picayune will find out, have a reference point from whence we come as part of our African heritage. And that's about it. Go Sierra Leone.
You
And
gonna
that's all.
sing, Miss Brenda?
No.
What?
Oh wait, well, I can sing. Okay, let me just sing this. When you say sing, all you have to do, you have to tell me to stop singing. You know, during Black History Month, we sing a lot of Negro spirituals, because I'm just going to say this. It's going to be real brief. Negro spirituals were songs of sorrow and grief and joy, all mixed up in one. And the songs represented hope, and it represented the day when we would leave the troubles of this world and go on to be with God. And one of my favorite songs is "Sooner will be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon will be done with the troubles of the world. I'm going home to live with God." I'm gonna be long. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. I'm going home to live with God. Okay, that's my Negro spiritual for tonight.
That was great. Thank you so very much for sharing.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Did y'all have
You're
any
welcome.
questions for Miss Brenda before we move on?
Yes.
All right. Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, I like to get that ancestry, that African ancestry stuff done. So I guess I get her page and stuff, because I really want to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So
All right.
Shawn, was that your question also? Okay. All right. So, Vinny, you want to go ahead and introduce Troy?
Okay.
Okay. I don't have the bios for the two of you, so he might have to introduce you.
Well, I tell you, this is a great young man that I met years ago in New Orleans, Louisiana, when we were young youth. And I can tell you this, the one thing that I know about him is that, number one, he loves the Lord. Number two is he loves history. That's why I was like, honey, we're going to enjoy that trivia. He loves history. And I don't think there's nothing in this world pertaining Black history that Troy don't know. So I introduce you to my husband, Mr. Troy Scott. The historian is what I call him.
oh, thank you, sweetie. Thank you for that that nice appreciation, warm welcome. But I'm just a humble everyday person, everyday guy. But I grew up with a mother, raised by mothers. Let me give you a little history of myself. I'm 60 years old, from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was born in the housing projects, Lafitte housing project. And in the 60s, I really came up in a time that we really took care of each other as a family, as a that old saying used to have, like a village. It takes a village to raise a child. I actually came from that era, and I was fortunate to have good people around me, and I think God set that atmosphere in my life. And I was born in 1961, so I guess that was the time of American and black people in America was a change of the world. And at the real age of young age, like I said, I was fortunate to have really, really good people around me, like my mom and my grandmother. And I fell in love with sports. And and from sports, it gave me a lot of it connected me with my friends and my associates and the other older people that was in my life that sure and kept me on the right path because I was really like in a concrete jungle living in that project in New Orleans. But I tell you, when God got something for you, and if you just stay on that path that He put you on, it's nothing. I never bumped a toe. I promise you this. And with my eyes seen as a young man, I don't know how I'm right here today saying, but I know it was all the power of God that kept me in Him and all about my life when I was in them streets. But one thing I could tell you about sports, and that was my love for football. It kept me out of harm's way, and I had a lot of. I'm telling you, when I say good people was in my life, mentors, they was my hero. They was my heroes. My Martin Luther Kings and my Booker T. Washington and my George Washington Carver. They gave me a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and what I call golden nuggets. My grandmother was the first one in my mom to give me the sense of caring for other people, for people. Plain, no holds barred. They embedded it in my heart, and to the day, I keep that dear in my heart to really try to always be a help for other people, for people. I love people, period. And kids, I love them so much. It's amazing that the things that they teach me, because I kept open mind to this day, that what a kid got in a pure heart is unbelievable. But to get back to my story, I was like, I guess coming up in the atmosphere I was in, I was kind of like a mischievous child. I was angry, like I didn't know why I was angry, but I always was. But I guess it was the atmosphere I was in, and God did give me the materials and I guess the heart the heart and the know how to get through and to treat people with respect, what my mom and grandmother gave me, and I think it got me to who I am today. Because if you don't have no love in your heart, no respect for the next person, which I know the last thing what Jesus said before He went on to be on the right hand side of the Father, that He told the disciple to love his brother as he loved himself and as he loved God. And that's all I ever had in my heart, is to love my brother, my neighbor. And that's what God, it's all through the Bible. And if we ever grab on to loving one another instead of hurting one another or judging one another, we'll be so far ahead, as a human being, as a humanity. But I'm gonna go back to my love for football and what it took me to my love for my Black history and my culture. And I'm getting back to, I was fortunate to have good people in my life with my coach. It was Park Ball, right? Nord. It was called Nord in New Orleans. It was New Orleans recreation, and I was fortunate. His name. He wasn't a good coach, but he was a good human being, and he was the supervisor of the park that I chose to go to. Was right across the street from the project. And when I tell you, this guy, this man, he was like my dad too. He was my mentor. He was my hero. But a lot of kids at that time didn't really understand him, and he was like, he was really in your face. But he taught me not just football. He taught me about life. And he was the first guy that taught me about my history. Now, mind you, I was in elementary. In the 60s, they didn't never spoke of Black history. And at that time, my coach, His name we used to call him Lou Jack. His name was Johnny uh Clifford Mead, but Casimir, I'm sorry, Johnny Casimir. And like I said, he was a real good person, human being. He just gave a lot and he'd ask for nothing back. But he just wasn't a coach. He was like a father figure. He was a mentor of mine, and he got me through that concrete jungle. And he was the first one to introduce me to my Black history. Now this is how he did it. He asked me to come over to his house every day. He used to ask. I used to go by him with my school because I was really big on my lessons in school and playing ball. But he always made me understand that my lesson came first because football in any sports is 25% physical, but it's 75% mental. And that's what he gave me, and to have the heart to play that game. So when I started out, when he used to come, I used to go out to school after practice by his house, and that's when he first introduced me to my history and to my culture. And it lit up a light bulb in my head that is still here today that amazed me of all the accomplishments that I didn't have an idea of how powerful our Black men and women are in this world and the thing that they gave to this world that mankind has an easy way to get down the road today with all electronics and engineering, and even we had explorers and everything. So anyway, the first thing he did, and I like I mind, he was a Black Panther. Not in the South, in New Orleans, I never knew about the Black Panthers in the 60s, but I knew older people that I knew in my life, they knew of them. But it wasn't talked about in New Orleans. So one day when I came by and saw to study, that's when he introduced me to the Black Panthers. And at that time it was going on in real time. And I learned about a lot of people, even our own community, looked at the Black Panthers as some really bad guys, and nothing could be more wrong than that idea. For one thing, the four guys that made up the Black Panthers when they first started out, right, with Hugh, but them guys was college guys. They were young college guys, educated, and they knew about the world as it was what they was living in real time. And what they did in the community, it just uplift the mind of the young kids and the older people in the in between about good health, good nutrition, after school programming, and that they were speaking of harming anyone. They was trying to disinvest in the youngsters in the community to uplift them and educate them to be better human beings in the community. And we got to learn today, I think people, we got to learn today more of stop being consumers. We have to start being the ones that sell, buy and sell. Because we had got to a spot in our mental mind that we are slaves, mentally slaves, but we are not our ancestors. And it was embedded to that life. And it was nothing but the enemy. But back to my coach, when I tell you, when he showed me that, then the next thing he showed me, he had like a lot of pictures, but it was upside down, only seeing the back part of it, right? And that's when he showed me about the Black inventors and Booker T. Washington. And I tell you, man, that was so amazing. Just at all that people that looked like me, sound like me, hair looked like. I was amazed. I was amazed. And from the century that they did these things, and it took a lot of courage, but most of all, it took God moving on them and them believing who they was in this country. And I think we need to teach our kids more about our history, y'all. We need to do this more on a high, on 100% level. We can't win on this government. We can't. We can't. Just like I think a big opportunity was with this pandemic. to self-teach our kids, to homeschool them. But we are so, I think, connected to what the world, what the enemy has given us. And we got to have clear eyes. God open our eyes on all the events happening in the last few years. But what I want to array back to it, and I don't want to keep getting off and going back because I'm kind of like that. My wife tells me that a lot. But football taught me, because like I said, I was a bad kid. I was a bully. I really was. I really was. And when he talked to me, and I learned, and I loved that game, but he taught me that game was only not about just playing that physical game. It was way much more. And it taught me to depend on my friend that was next to me on that field, to trust him, to believe in him, and to be a team, and a camaraderie of being together. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about being with each other as a team on that field, in off that field. We became family, and that's what I learned. And it got me where I'm at today. And I'm 60 years old. God has restored my heart, my mind. We all have ups and downs in this life, but knowing your path and knowing your mission and keeping in love with God but just stay in love with God, stay in love with God, and stay in love with your neighbors and your family. Keep them close to you, because that's all we have. And we can see where this world is going today. But that football is not just a game. It was a way of life. And the one guy that I want to talk about in Black history was Gil Seals. He was a running back, and that's a position I liked. And when he talked about sports, he made you see it was more than just a game. And that was my hero, and that was my Black history giant. To me, it was Gil Seals for the Chicago Bears. And that's my presentation. I hope you guys enjoy it. But I didn't have a lot of time. I really want to do a lot of more in depth on sports and on children and on my ministry of helping, and then giving gold nuggets to people that gave it to me, to get me where I'm at today. And that's what I want to do.
That was awesome. Listen, you can come back and we can have a whole nother episode on the sports and the children. It's needed, and I could definitely relate to some of the things that you were saying about how you were raised and just different things about just loving people in general without knowing that there was such a thing as
What?
Is it me? Let's see. Let me mute you, Troy. Knowing anything about disliking someone because of the color of their skin. I wasn't raised that way. So it was completely like foreign to me when I did realize that was the type of country, that we had lived in and was currently living in, because I was just raised to love the human race, not a particular race. So I hope that, through this all and through this, like you said, presentation, through this episode, I hope that it comes across as we're bringing a light to our history, but it's all in love. Really and truly, at the end of the day, it's all in love. So Miss Brenda is back. And Miss Brenda.
Yes.
So let's see. Excuse me. So Miss Shawn had to pop off, but she did say that for anyone who purchases the game, use code BLACK365 to get 28% off through February 28th. So you can get a percentage off if you go ahead and order the game. I'm so sorry. So Vinny. Do you want to introduce Daniel, or do you want to go ahead and
Mr. Daniel,
you or
I
do
got
you
his
did you?
bio.
I don't have your information. Do you want Troy to introduce you?
Girl, I'm talking to this.
Okay, you just my co-host. Okay,
I'm your co-host.
okay, co-host, go ahead on.
Well, next we got Mr. Daniel L. Baker, who holds a Bachelor of Science degree from University of Southern Mississippi, a master's
So the
of
mess to the top.
yeah. He's a master of education from Williams. Is it Carey University? And a specialist of education and higher education administration from Williams Carey University. Mr. Baker is employed as an instructor of history at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Good to know. Where he has taught since 2013. He has also served in an adjunctive instruction of history for Williams Carey University for 6 years. He teaches world civilization, American history, and African American history courses. Mr. Baker served in the Mississippi National Guard for 10 years and has pastored Transforming Lives Ministry in, now you're going to help me with that. What is that?
Heidelberg.
Heidelberg, Mississippi. Boy, I tell you, we got some names in Mississippi from 2011 to the present. That is awesome.
You want me to read some of the other? You want me to jump in?
Go ahead, because I don't even have the other part.
Okay, so he's also serving as an instructor in the social studies department. Mr. Baker believes that it is important to teach in a way that not only educates students, but also inspires them to research and explore their world to become lifelong learners. If students are given the tools to find and synthesize information correctly, they will be able not only to learn history, but also be able to make informed decisions for the future. Mr. Baker understands that it is important to use all your life experiences and education to teach students. He uses the lessons that he's learned from past employment, military service, and education to adequately instruct his students. Let's see. He gave some examples, and I don't want to embarrass him, but he has done a lot. So I'm gonna end it with outside of the classroom. Mr. Baker is a member of the Mississippi Historical Society Kappa Alpha Psi, I think, fraternity, and is a member of several committees at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. These committees include Student Veteran Association, SAP Appeal, Student Conduct, Judicial Review, and Achieving the Dream. These committee assignments allow him to be a well-rounded instructor that can give students a view of professionalism and professional conduct. Students a view of professionalism, professional conduct. I think that's all that I received, but I'm just going to say, last but not least of our panelists, welcome Mr. Daniel Baker. Yay!
Thank you so
Round
much.
of applause.
That was actually a portfolio I had to do for a class. So that's why it's so lengthy. You have to read all that stuff, but I did something for a class.
Well, you know, at first she stopped, but I was like, this is a lot. This is good information. That way we'll know the background.
Okay.
I don't think anybody opposed to that.
Okay. Well, look, I very, very much enjoyed everybody. It was awesome. Great guest. It was great. And I've enjoyed everybody's presentation. I do want to say to Miss Brenda that I found out from Cameroon. Here's my flag.
All right.
I found it out about I think 2016, 2017. So,
All right.
But thank you guys so much. I'm gonna try to be brief, and because I'm really intimidated by everybody's presentation. It's been so great. I guess I actually talked to Miss Celena early this week, and through my barber actually, and I like talking about Black history, and through all of that, my biggest achievement for tonight that I love is the fact that I was able to get Black History Talk at Gulf Coast Community College, which I think is the first time it's ever been taught at Gulf Coast Community College. And of course, the interesting thing about that is that my campus is actually named until 2020. It was named after Jefferson Davis. It was the Jefferson Davis campus of Gulf Coast Community College right there in Gulfport, Mississippi. And of course, you guys already know Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederacy, a group of people who were willing to die and to spend millions, almost billions of dollars to ensure that Black people stayed inside the fields and stayed under white subjugation. And so thankfully in 2020, our campus was renamed. And I will say a lot of the community assignments that I did and all those stuff that I did was because I wanted to get to a place where one day we could have African-American history there, because it's very important. Because Black history is world history. We call ourselves minorities, but in the world sense that the majority of the people in the world are Black or brown. Actually, people who consider themselves to be white, quote unquote, are actually a minority in the world sense. African-American history is American history. Our stories are essential to the American story, and we need to be told, they need to be analyzed, they need to be celebrated. We are culture. And I say that a lot because we are culture. And some of you guys are a little bit older than me, just a little bit, but you'll know that, hey, when it came down to maybe in the 40s with swing and jazz, that's Black music. In the 30s with blues, that's Black music. When it came down to rock and roll, that's Black music. When it comes down to funk, when it comes down to hip hop, R&B, everything, soul, everything, it's all Black music. We have always said culture. We are culture. Everyone wants to be like us until it's time to be us, until it's time to actually face some of the things that we face as Black Americans. Being Black comes with systemic roadblocks. And in my class, we've been talking about that you know, I hate when people say, you know, that they'll have shirts that say, I'm not my ancestors. You know, you can get these hands. I always tell them, I say, you know, our ancestors were not punks. Our ancestors were not people that were just fearful all the time. Our ancestors knew that for them to step out in a certain way, they're going to, you know, have reprisals against them, not because they were scared of that person, but they knew the system that was backing that person. They knew that, you know, if someone comes and blows up my house, there'll be no reprisals against them. There'll be no justice for them doing that. And of course, you can have things go even farther left because of that system that backs them up. So we have a lot of systemic roadblocks and obstacles. We would love to be just American. Of course, now there's a big deal. Like they say, well, why you need African American history? You know, it's all American history. Why you guys won't call yourself African American? Just call yourself American. And I always tell the people the same thing all the time, is that I would love to be just American. I would love you just to say, well, Daniel Baker's just an American. But I want you to say the same thing when the police come. I want you to say he's American. Don't say he's a Black American when you have to describe me to somebody. But the truth is, America's not allowed us to be only Americans. It made sure that we were different. It made sure that we were otherized in their view. As a teacher of history, it is my job to tell people stories. I will say that that's all history is to me. It's just stories. And that's why we teach it. We need to have our stories researched, our stories told, and our stories heard. That's our job. I was just at a conference in Natchez, the Natchez Literary and Cinema Fest conference, and most of all of the speakers, which I really enjoy going there, because they all write about Black history. I mean, it's because they're writing about Natchez, writing about, you know, all of the slave trade, and writing about, of course, free people of color in Natchez, and all these great stories. And that's all history is. History is just putting together a story. And the reason why we need Black history and why it's so important, because a lot of times our stories are either hidden, they are overlooked, they're ignored, everything. And so we have to make sure that we tell these stories. That's our job. It's our job to make sure it happens. So I said, well, you know, how do I start this first lecture to one of my most favorite classes ever? And my first lecture was about my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1919. His name was Johnny Dantzler McCullum. Dantzler McCullum, of course, being both surnames that came from slaveholders of his parents, not his parents, but, you know, his ancestors. He's born in 1919. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about really quickly, you know, what that meant. Because in 1919, when he's born, of course, we're going through Red Summer. And I know you guys have probably heard all these things, but Red Summer was a year of some of the most horrific, some of the most bloody race riots in America. And especially for Black soldiers who had gone over to fight for their country in World War I and saw some semblance of freedom and equality, especially in France. A lot of them wanted to stay in France. Some of them did stay in France and got back home to America. And just to put them back in their place, people were lynched, people were brutalized, people were run off from their homes. This is when you have the Elaine massacre, you have the Wilmington massacre. I mean, you have Chicago, you have some in Clarksdale. We have countless Black soldiers who, if they dared to step off the train in their uniform, were lynched, assaulted, killed. He was born in that year. In 1929, he is 10 years old, and he is born right in the middle. He's 10 years old in the time of the Great Depression, which was horrible for the United States, but it was much more horrible for people of color, because even when the New Deal came down, a lot of those programs that were supposed to be there to help people get jobs and assistance, they were given in the hands of racist white people, especially in the South, who did not let that money go down to those hands. 1939, he's 20. 1936, of course, Hitler tried to prove that the white people were the superior race and refused to shake Jesse Owens' hands in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. And in 1939, of course, when Hitler invades Poland, which starts off World War II, he's 20 years old. And of course, he goes to serve. He served in World War II, but couldn't serve with white soldiers. He was actually in a segregated unit, but he serves. He had a brother that served in the Marine, a brother who served in the Navy. They all went to go serve their country. In 1949, he is 30 years old. In 1948, the military has just integrated. The military that asked him for his service told him he was good enough to go catch a bullet for the United States, but not to catch a bullet with a white unit, in a mixed unit. And then finally, in 1948, you're going to see that they're going to integrate. 1959, he is 40 years old. The civil rights movement is just now beginning to start. You have the Montgomery bus boycott has already happened by this time. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. Emmett Till is massacred, is killed and lynched. And 55, I'll make sure. Y'all keep me on these. If I mess up on these dates, they're going to kill me. But he's lynched as well. And 1969, I'll stop there. 1969 is very important for anybody from my hometown, because that's the date that actually the year that our schools in Heidelberg High School actually integrated. Heidelberg High School was supposed to integrate in 1955, basically 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education. 1955 was, they said it was called Brown 2, that they had to integrate with all deliberate speed. And of course, Mississippi drug their feet, put it out through court. I mean, went through all kind of stuff to not integrate the schools. And so my school did not integrate until 1969. And my cousin was actually, I call my uncle, was, my cousin. You know how that goes. He was actually one of the first students to integrate Heidelberg High School. So it tells you how long it took. I bring up all those things because my grandfather, 3 of his 4 kids are going to graduate from college. Only one, that's my mother, actually went to an integrated school. She actually went to Southern Miss. The rest of them, even though my grandfather worked for 30 years at Masonite at a plant, he worked also at home in a farm, working for him, and later he sold insurance. He paid his taxes to the state of Mississippi like everybody else, but yet his tax dollars paid for every public school in Mississippi, every public university, but his kids not allowed to go. They were not allowed to attend. And I think about that, and I'll close kind of with the things I want to tell my students a lot of times to think about. We talk about reparations a lot, and people are like, well, you're not a descendant of a slave. You didn't come from a slave, so therefore we don't owe you any money. And I tell them that's a flawed statement, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because it's like playing Monopoly, and everyone gets $2,000 before they start the game. But for you, you're going to get negative $2,000. You're going to start off in debt, and the majority of the board is going to be already bought up, and what's left to buy, you can't buy because of your race. So that's not a very fair game. But 2, I tell them, I don't have to go back to slavery to talk about reparations. I can go back to my grandfather. My grandfather paid taxes like anybody else in Mississippi. Yet, because of his race, his kids could not go to any university in Mississippi. And that's one of the cases. Now I know we probably will never get reparations. I don't know if it's possible. That's one of the things I think about a lot. That in Mississippi, if I was a teacher and I started out teaching in high school, when I first got out of college, I was paid on a state scale. But in Mississippi in 1959, the state scale was different for Black people. We only made about 48% as a white teacher with the same education, the same certifications. So think about that. Think about, that these systems are put in place to make sure our kids are behind, but also make sure that you're not really American. To make sure that you're not, that, hey, you may be African American, but you're not really American. And those things I like to think about, like the research, to bring those stories out, that, hey, those are the inequities we're talking about. That is not even going back to slavery. Slavery is horrific. It's terrible. But I don't have to go back to slavery. I can go back to the 1960s. I can go back to the 1950s, 70s, 80s, 90s, to be honest with you. And that's why it's important to tell our stories. My grandfather's story is probably like a lot of your grandparents' stories. But that's why it's important to tell these stories, because it's really a part of American history. And that's it.
That's a great history. That was a great history. And I guess one of the things that I would want to ask you is how do you or others go about trying to get those curriculums put into our public schools, or have there been a fight for that? So I posed that question to Mr. Daniel Baker, since you're in education, to see how do you get those curriculums, Black history curriculum, into the Mississippi schools, especially.
Are you talking about public schools or colleges?
Public schools.
To be honest, and this is what I think, Mr. Scott was talking about as well. That's got to be parents. Parents have got to say, we will have this. What we found out in my community college was that there is a code for every class. And we found out when we said we're going to do this African American history class, that the state of Mississippi has a code for African American history. The problem was nobody there wanted to teach it, and nobody there wanted to be brave enough to say want to get it. And so when we found that code, we said, well, look, it's here. You can't tell us no anymore. Mississippi, the state of Mississippi, has codes for every class, even in secondary ed, as far as in high schools. It's there. All you have to do is go to your school board, and you have to petition for that to happen. And you have to then find a teacher that wants to teach it. And you'll be surprised that quite a few want to teach this course. Historians, especially like, in community college, we're kind of, limited on the classes we can teach. So we were happy. I was happy to be able to teach something like this. But I think that's going to be just parents. Parents just have to say, we always have long answers. I'm going to cut it short. That's your school. They work for you. I try to tell people that all the time. Your elected officials work for you. You do not work for them. You're not there to ask them for anything. We mess up because as Black people, they've told us we have to be humble. We have to ask. We have to do this. We don't have to ask for anything. Your tax dollars go to their school. You have a right to say, we're going to have this. You'll be surprised. It's one thing how, I guess we're going to be honest, other races teach their kids. They don't ask for stuff. They tell them, this is what's here. You're going to give me this. I don't have to ask for something that you've already passed legislation for. So when we send these requests asking for things, it's as though we're going to take no for an answer. And we don't have to take no for an answer. If the school curriculum says you have to have that, they have to have that. Even if it comes down to uniform, my school had uniform. This is something that I learned. If a school or public school says a kid have to have something, they have to pay for it. So parents figure that out. Some parents figure that out and say, well, I'm not paying for school uniforms. You told my kid they have to have school uniforms. It's a public school. I don't have to pay for uniforms. And guess what? The school bought the uniforms. But do we read the handbook? Do we look at the curriculum? Do we go to meetings and find that out? And you don't have to. This is what I want this generation understand. We don't have to ask for anything. Go get it. Go tell them this is what will happen. And if you don't, we have legislation for that.
Okay, now, I guess no, you answered my question, but I guess another question that I would ask you, do you travel to educate, parents? Say for instance, I'm the director of the Picayune Culver Culture Center, so we're getting ready to launch and get into our building. If we were to get parents together, that they can be educated on things to know how to approach these situations, because I think this is just a thought process. um, a lot of our people, and I can just say for a lot of people here in the South area, or they are more of afraid taking a stance. If am I putting it right? Taking a stance for what we need. They're so used to
Being
they help
afraid.
put my word being
But
free.
no, like I want to know why. At this age and time in our lives, as grown folks, at we elders now, and we got to give these things to our youngsters. We have to stand up. We really have to stand on our culture, and for our youngsters, how they going to go forward if they don't know what we went through. The same thing how we didn't know what our ancestors, our dads and moms went through. We have an idea. We know it was terrible, but we got to explain it to these kids where we came from. And we got to do it. We can't wait on the system, what we call it, the system. We have to get together as parents, teachers, learners, bankers, everyday people in our community. And we have to get together. We have to gather them up together and get on one accord. One accord, we can make something happen. We can make something happen. We can't be afraid. It's too far in the game for us to be afraid.
But Mr. Scott, I think that people are actually they are afraid of speaking out because of the things that are happening in the culture today. I think a lot of people are afraid because we don't want to we tippy toe around people because of our culture, and we don't want to step on anybody. We don't want to we afraid, pretty much afraid of saying, this is what our people need to know. This is what they need to know, why it's important for them to go out there and vote. Let me just put it like that. They need to know, the things that people went through in order for them to have that right to vote. Or they need to know the things that our grandparents went through in order for us to have the lifestyle, or what we have today. That we're out of the outhouse, but the outhouse is on the inside of the house now. So a lot of us are afraid to express that. So so Mr. Baker, again, do you come to cities like Picayune to to educate the parents? If we got a group of parents together, would you come down to educate them on how?
I feel like it's my duty to do that.
Okay.
If you want somebody to come down, it's no problem.
Okay.
I wonder sometimes about the fear, though. Marcus Garvey talks about that a lot, and the reason why I say that is because I can't be afraid after I've seen what I've seen. My ancestors have gone through too much. You think about Clyde Kennard, who Kennard Washington Hall. I think I'm guessing Miss Lynn with the Southern Miss as well. But Kennard Washington Hall is named after Clyde Kennard, and of course Washington being the first PhD there. Clark Kennard was a vet in the Army. I bring it out a lot because people always say that, the military service is what makes you a man in the United States, and it's supposed to be something that's celebrated. But not if you're black. Clark Kennard was a vet. Brenda was a vet. And, he would try to go to register at the University of Southern Mississippi, and they actually not only, well, at one point tried to put him inside Whitfield, tried to say it was crazy. At another point, they actually, the state troopers and the state police actually accused him of stealing chicken feed. The man had a huge farm, had no, he's not going to steal 40 pounds of chicken feed, man, and put him inside a parchment until he got so sick that what they finally did, let him out to just die. And so that's my point. If Clark Kennard can do that, I'm not going to just sit there and be afraid to tell somebody what legally I can have. The law says I can have. In 2020, and I'm saying that because in 2020, and this is why, I want to say this. In 2020, with all the stuff that was going on, my brother's, he's a firecracker. He's not very, he's not educated. He's not as polished as me sometimes in what he says. But hey, you need those kind of people sometimes. Hey. He started this whole movement just saying, look, we have a Confederate monument in front of our library. Our town, Heidelberg, is 80% black with a black mayor and a black population. And so he's like, man, we're going to go down. We're going to protest. And we went to protest that summer. And of course, the news came down and everything. And I remember that I didn't know it got that far. I went live on Facebook and everything, and we protested, and people were saying certain things. And at that time, I lived in Jones County. Now, if you know anything about Jones County, that's the free state of Jones. That's what some of the biggest Klansmen were and are still. And I'm not saying were, they still there. And that's where I lived. I lived in Ellisville at the site of a terrible lynching around 1909 in Ellisville. But I mean, I'm not going to be afraid. My grandparents, my forefathers went through too much, and we have a right to protest. And I told them, I said, look, we're not trying to bring down the statue and destroy it. We're just telling you, if it's your statue, you take it somewhere else. This is a black community. Now, one thing we did after that, now, the protest is great, but after that, we all got together to try to organize. That's all I want to say as well. This is why it's important that parents organize. We, Stokely Carmichael said one of the biggest problems in the black community is a lack of organization. We have to organize. We sent Obama to the presidency, and people now say, well, Obama didn't do anything for me. And I always ask people, I say, what did you ask him to do? What did you ask him to do? Every other community, with every other voting block, whenever they send somebody to office, they give them a list of things. I want you to do this. And if you don't do this, I'm not voting for you in 4 years. Black people, we just send Obama there, and we hope that he going to know what to do for black people, but we didn't tell him what to do. And sometimes we have got to understand we got to organize. So what do? We organized, we made a political action committee, Better Together Heidelberg, funded it ourselves. And in a year, in 2021, we were able to remove the mayor in Heidelberg with a mayor who's only a year older than me. Black mayor who's only a year older than me. We were able to replace 3 aldermen. We put together and say, look, these are the candidates you need to vote for. They've been around the community working. The whole year we worked the community. And so he won by a landslide. The alderman won. And so, of course, they come in. So now you have a mayor and an alderman that are all on the same team trying to push the community forward. Heidelberg was a food desert for 5 years, meaning we had only one grocery store, and that one grocery store shut down 5 years ago. We just got word this week, Piggly Wiggly has put it on their site that we're going to get our grocery store. We haven't had a grocery store in 5 years. We're going to have a grocery store now because where we were, for older people, of course, they're like 20 miles away from the nearest grocery store. But that's what organization does. And that's when you say, well, look, we don't ask you for anything. We're going to put people in the office that are going to do what we want them to do. And one thing about their protest, of course, the young people come out, young people, they got, they're going to be young people and saying these things. One of the best parts about that was talking to an older lady that said, you know what? I'm so proud of y'all. I'm so proud of y'all. I've been living here my whole life, and y'all are actually doing something about something. And at the protest, she came out. I mean, she's been around in the civil rights movement. She said, I'm finally glad y'all doing something. And so I don't understand the whole thing about why we're fearful. And I'm going to say this, we as Retribution, we actually changed banks after that. The bank that we were going to in Heidelberg, They started acting a little iffy right after that protest because I was on news and my brother's on the news and everything. But of course, what do? We're grown people. My money, I'm gonna take my money to where it's appreciated. So all we did was say, okay, thank you so much. Let's take out all our money and went to another bank. People don't have to like you. My grandfather said something that my cousin always repeats. So you don't have to like me, but you're gonna respect me. I don't ask anybody to respect me. Nobody should ask anybody to respect them. We get respect up front. I call everybody sir and ma'am. We get respect up front. I'm not going to ask you to respect me. You will respect me. Now you have to like me. This whole idea that we're gonna get everybody to love us and like us. I've studied too much history. It ain't gonna happen, y'all. But they have to respect you. And they only respect people who decide we're gonna get it. Now I'm gonna go back to the Bible real quick. The Bible said that the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, but the violent take it by force. Mm-hmm. It said you don't ask for anything. We go. That and it's not a violent thing as far as we're gonna have to go out and blow something up. But this is long answers. I'm sorry. Look at January 6th. Look at January 6th. They didn't go asking you to go change no election. They didn't ask you to change the election. We're gonna make you change the election. We know what the results said. We don't care. We're gonna make you do this. But then they do this brazenly, right? Just walk up in there and we're gonna just take it. We're gonna just change the election. But we're afraid to go to a school board and to say on paper we have the right to have this class. And my question is, this is my question. As parents, we have to earn the right to be parents. We have to earn that right for our kids to respect us. We just can't. I have a a son who's going to graduate in May. I have to earn the right for his respect. You don't have to just, no. I have to earn that because he's in my house. And so I'm going to earn his respect because I'm going to make sure that he's taken care of. I don't ask for anything. If I go to school, I will show up to school. If anything, my son is going to be, I got two sons, and if we have two sons, everything going wrong with them, I don't ask for anything. I'm going to tell you, especially nothing that's supposed to be mine. Long answer, and I am through. We all go through this whole thing with Dr. King, and they jump. I hate it when people, especially white people, do this. They jump to the "I have a dream" part. They don't understand preachers. That's when he just getting amped up, getting everybody on excited. But you forget the first half of the sermon, of the speech. The first half of the speech is talking about we have come here to this capital because we have been given a check from the United States that has come back insufficient funds. He is saying we're not asking for anything. You wrote a check in the Bill of Rights that said we have the same rights as everybody in America. And we come here to tell you that you've not honored your check. Now, when you don't honor a check, nobody's nice about that. They don't ask you, would you please come cover this check? They tell you, come get your check. Come cover this check. But what we want to do, and you will see, I can't, even my colleagues, I say, look, don't y'all post it on Facebook this year, for Black History Month. I don't want to be judged by the color of my skin, but the content of my character. I say, the bad thing about it, make it about you. He wasn't talking about you. Don't go to that part of the speech. Go to the front of the speech where he's talking about America. Access to die overseas. America took our tax money. America access to work. America access to serve. And yet when it came down to rights, we don't have rights. And Dr. King came out and said, no, I'm telling you, you need to honor this check. So tell them to go to the school board and say, y'all better honor this check.
All right. Okay, parents, I know you guys are on here and you're listening to Mr. Daniel Baker, and he's telling you to, and let me tell you something, Mr. Baker. And I hate to be the one to come with the unfortunates because I guess I'm one that kind of worked in the community a lot, so I deal with the jumping. I'm that person that jumps out in the forefront and say, we're going to go and we're going to get something done. And you have a whole lot of people behind you. They be saying, that's right, we're going to get something done. So you marching and you go and you look and you're trying to get something done and you look back and you the only one standing. Everybody else is going. All your hooplas and yeah, we gonna get it done. They peeking around the door trying to see what's gonna happen to you, if see if you gonna be lynched on the tree, if they gonna burn a cross in your yard first before they come. But I guess for me, I come from a lineage of people, um, um, and I guess is it my turn? And I'm gonna be quicker than he was. My Celena and I are relatives, and so we come from a background of my grandfather, my great grandfather, which we call him Papa or Thad Smith. And they were sharecroppers. And if you don't know what sharecroppers were, they worked the field and they got their share of, they didn't get people would say, well, they got their share of the money. No, they got a little something to put on the table. They got to stay in a cottage or the one shotgun houses. They worked the thing just to stay on the plantation. I guess that's what it was. And so they have a little something on the table. And so that was my great grandfather. My grandfather, he and my grandmother, they worked for a lot of well established people here in this community here. And so my grandfather at the time would be able to, as people back in the day, they didn't have credit cards, but your name was good. And if you had a good name in the community, then you were able to do a lot more because of your name. So we had a quote unquote, my family had a good name in the community. But my mother, who was part of the segregation, well, she was one of the first Black majorettes here in the city of Picayune. She went to the Black school when they had the little colored school over on the east side. Then they segregated in it was, I think, 1970 here is when they did it. And so well, so she was a part of that group. So she educated us a lot about things. But my mother moved away at an early age. When they had us, we didn't quite grow up here in Mississippi. We grew up in New Orleans. So we grew up with a different mindset than a lot of people in the Mississippi area, because we got a chance in New Orleans, even though Louisiana was, they were, but we grew up in our Black neighborhood, so we seen a lot of Black businesses. We saw Black mayors and things like that. So when we come back into the Mississippi area, and you going like, what? And then I moved my kids from the Mississippi area, Louisiana, and we was in Atlanta, so we got a chance to see, oh my God, all of the people just thriving and thriving. So you get back here to Picayune, and you're saying, okay, well, we can get those things to happen here, but instead, Sunshine, they start to label you as a you come here to start trouble. But you didn't come here to start trouble. You come here to enlighten our people, to let them know that, this mentality that you've been shown or been a part of, if you step outside of these doors, then you're going to see the world is a whole lot bigger than what you think they are. They've been stuck in this little box, but you're trying to take them outside of the box. And when you try to take people outside of the box, it makes them feel uncomfortable. And then it's not that you're trying to make trouble, but you're just trying to enlighten people that you have rights. I study the law. I go into details, and I want to know about the law. I want to know about the Mississippi laws that they have, the legislations and things that they have in law. I want to know about those things. And you will be surprised of some of the laws that they still have here in Mississippi that would completely blow your mind. And you're going like, do they know that they're living in this state with these type of laws that have not even been changed? And so so I got involved on that level. And my mother, which was my pusher, that was my pusher. I have an uncle that lives in Washington, D.C., and he's a stickler on Black history. So they would share their information. My uncle, Selena's father, a lot of people don't know, and I don't even know if she knew. He left, and he left Mississippi, went to New York, and when he got to New York, he became a part, and I heard my husband talk about the Black Panthers. So he became a part of the Black Panthers in New York. And he came back to Mississippi to try to, again, educate the people in this city about the Black Panthers. And he became what they call a troublemaker. And they put him in Parchman Prison. He got put in Parchman Prison. People thought, well, he went to jail for this, that, and the other, but he went to Parchman for standing up for the right of the people and the Black people in Picayune, and he was organizing the Black Panthers here in Picayune. So they put him in Parchman, and my grandfather and my mom them went through a lot to try to, to get him. So he was another one that kind of kept me educated about our Black history, especially here in Picayune, where my grandmother raised a lot of the predominantly wealthy people here. My grandmother was their cook. She was there. She washed their clothes. She raised their children, and some of them she breastfed. Okay, and so so she was that person that and so you see that you have these people and they're going on to be successful and wealthy and all of this stuff. And my family was only just trying to fight to let their voice be heard, but yet they were thought of as ones that was troublemakers. So so I'm not, again, trying to be troublemaker, but I want to educate our people in this area. And I'm about as long as you are, Mr. Baker. Guess what? I'm a minister. I'm a minister.
Hey, that explains it then.
Yeah. So it's not that you're trying to make trouble, but you're trying to educate the people of their rights. Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Well, I think that's always going to happen. People are going to always say that, but you still got to do it. You still have to do what you have to do. I want to bring it out because when Dr. King was killed, and I hate when people say he died. He was assassinated. He was killed. He didn't die of natural causes. But when he was killed, his approval rating among Blacks and whites was very low. Very low. He was not a very popular person at that time. One of the main reasons was because by that time, as far as Black people, they had moved from the civil rights to the Black Panthers. I just finished a book, reading a book about Stokely Carmichael. Was awesome just last year. And Stokely was like, hey, we're not going to overcome, we're going to overrun. And he said, I want Black power. His statement is I don't know if I say N-word. I'm going to say N-word then. His statement, when he went to jail last time, he said, look, you tell the governor of Mississippi, all the scared N-words are dead. That's what he said. We want Black power. That's exactly what he said as he got arrested like the 20th time. And my point about that is, so the young people were like, look, this didn't work. We're moving on. Older people were, and then, of course, the white population were cool with him when he said civil rights. But now he's still talking about social equality, so economic equality. I mean, he goes to Memphis with the whole sanitation strike. And now he's talking about different things like, and then of course later on he comes out against the Vietnam War. So now blacks and whites are kind of moving from his side. And I think we forget that at that time he was considered to be a troublemaker. He was considered to be a person. Think about Malcolm. I mean, goodness, Malcolm was always considered to be a troublemaker. But if you want to, and I hate to quote George W. Bush on this, but George W. Bush is right about one thing. He said you cannot judge somebody in their time. You can only judge them years after their time is over. They said, how would you rate your presidency? He said, I can't rate it now. He said, people will rate me years down the line. And it's true. That a lot of people that we look at in their time, Muhammad Ali in 1960 something? No, he was not a popular person. Now, of course, everybody likes Muhammad Ali. But in the 60s, no. He said, I'm not going to fight in this war, but you still have to do what you know is right. It's moral compass in all of us. And my advice to you is just find clear problems, clear objectives, clear plans. Because people can't take a lot of things at one time. This idea that we have, and I was talking to somebody about this, that we're going to change people's mentality, that's too big of a problem. you can't tackle that. You cannot tackle people's mentalities. That's a lot of therapy, a lot of stuff that got to happen. What you got to figure out, okay, what do we want now? And that was, I'm not trying to say we did everything right with that. I'm proud because as well, one thing we did, we revitalized downtown. A lot of building downtown was dilapidated. Nobody was there. We started saying, well, hey, and thank God for social media. So-and-so is going to put a little convenience store downtown, just snacks and stuff like that. We put it on Facebook and like, hey, everybody go and buy that. Everybody go to her store. Make sure when you're in, like so much like me, I don't live down there. When I'm in town, I make sure I go eat black owned. I make sure I shop black owned. I eat black owned, everything. The little time I'm there, I'm going to take care of those things. And then you have to start to say, now I believe one of the biggest things that helps us is economic power. We had a person to come and sell watermelons right beside the gas station in Heidelberg, 2 big rebel flags on the back of their truck. And so, of course, we put it out on Facebook with one of the young kids down put on Facebook, like, hey, this guy's out here selling watermelons, big old rebel flag over here. And somebody said, nobody's going to buy watermelons from him. And of course, some of them actually confront him like, hey, you might want to go somewhere else. This is a majority black town. We're not going to buy your watermelons. And of course, guess what? Those flags came down. Because we have the right to say what we're going to do with our money. And so therefore, we're going to tell them like, hey, it is what it is. You want to keep flying the flag? We cannot legally stop you. We're not going to use any violence, but we're going to tell you right now, we're going to make sure nobody black come and buy anything from you. And when I say not only just say, we're going to put it on Facebook, we put it on Facebook like, hey, this guy's here. He has a right to be here. We're not buying from him. And guess what happens? He goes. Later on, he comes back around, no flag. That's us. We don't have to be insulted with my money. I'm not being insulted with my money. So clear plans, clear objectives, small things like that. So I did, for us, it was like, hey, let's get a mayor. Let's get aldermen. Those small things. Because people, and I feel your pain on that because people don't know how much it takes to do what you do. And, I'm being honest, some of the people in our group, they work hard. But what they really just need to do, what they really did was so well was just make this plan and say, okay, this is what you got to do. We can't ask much from you because the mass of people, you can't ask much from them. What can you do right now? Okay, can you go shop at so-and-so store? She just started. We want to make sure she does well on the first day. We want to make sure she does well. Whenever you're back in town, shop at so-and-so store. All right? And so my question, and I'm going to have to go run and get my charger for my laptop is about to go out. My question is, do you have a Black History class at Picking Your Own? Do you have students that want to take it? And do you have a teacher that you trust? So that's 3 questions you got to ask because if they put a Black History class there, it's going to be an elective. It's not going to be a required course. Mm-hmm. That's one thing about the state, not going to make it a required course. Mm-hmm. But if you have enough, and I know it's enough Black people at Picking Your Own to take it, if they all flood that class to take it, they can't say anything. So you got to make sure you have students that want to take it and a teacher you trust. If you have those 2 things, it's ball game. They can't tell them kids they can't. Mm-hmm. Kids got a lot of power.
Well, and we have an alternative for that as well because it will be taught and offered through the Picayune Carver Culture Center.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it will be taught, and then we do have a wonderful young lady that has put a beautiful curriculum and still working on a great curriculum. So when we do get the program moving through the culture center, that we will definitely have a planned curriculum for our Black history. And that was one of the things that we started taking it into the Head Start centers. Then it started coming from the Head Start. The young kids got so excited from the Head Start Center to other child cares started calling for it, for us to come. And this year, I think we did more. And then the young lady from the library who saw it from last year, and she reached out and say, well, would you come to the library to do the and see, and that and the thing about that is, you know I want to teach all people. I just don't want to be confined to just, African American people, so that they can be educated. I think if all people understood, you start with us, but if all people understood, what we've gone through and what we're going through and where we are going, I think, you know, I don't know. I think well, go ahead. I see.
I mean, my class is open to white students. I have some white students in my class.
Absolutely.
I do. I mean, and I think African American history is American history.
And that's my point. I think it's our history to share with everyone, that it's their history as well.
Right. But now, if they don't take it, we can't.
We can't force it. That's right.
We can't enforce that. It's important that we cherish our history. It's important that
we have to, in order for us to cherish our history, then we have to teach our history. Now, when you said for us to cherish history, and I know our time is probably over, but this is one thing that I want you to understand. The saddest part is when you have elderly people that don't want to share their history. They told me, and I know you heard this because you preacher, that the wealthiest place on the earth is the graveyard. And that's because they took it to the grave.
Right. That's correct.
They took it to the grave. And so that's why I'm here trying to collect all of the information and pass that information on. We don't like to pass information on, and I don't understand that. We don't, as an African American community, we don't like to pass the information on. Can you elaborate a little bit, Miss Chocolate, Mr. Baker, somebody tell me why we are afraid to pass information on to the next generation?
A lot of times, many of us have that low self-esteem, low self-worth thing, and don't value ourselves. Many of us don't. In my family, people are intimidated by what somebody else gonna think or what somebody else gonna say, because they don't know how important we are. We are important people. We have an important history that we just shh around.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Baker. I see your lips.
I think she made a good.
Celena, what is your thoughts? You over there too quiet.
I was just gonna agree with Miss Chocolate and say sometimes I don't believe that we really know our value or think that someone is gonna actually listen or a change is actually gonna come because you're just that one person with that one voice. But like Mr. Baker said, if you all get together, I mean, that voice becomes no longer solo, but it's a group effort that you've all collaborated together, and you're not going to look back and find yourself up there alone once you're on one accord. Once you decide that this is what we're going to do as a group, as a people, then I think maybe the confidence will come. But just as a solo person, I think maybe, like Miss Chocolate said, you don't really value what the information that you have to share. For example, even like conversations with Celena, sometimes, y'all encourage me to continue to show up, but the self sometimes wonder, is it something of value to other people? Even though I enjoy it, is it of value? So if I would have quit, guess what? This right here would not be going forth. So there is value in each and everything that we do. And is this my gift? If it is, I don't want to take it to the grave. And so I want to encourage everyone, if you have information to share, give it to the next generation, and not just to them. Put it in writing so that it could be there for generations to come. I can't tell you. I mean, I guess if you put it in comparison to work, on a job, people like to be economical with their information as well, because they feel like if they share it, then you somehow become competition, or you may outshine them on a job. So maybe it's a way to kind of keep that control. If you keep all of the information, you have the power, and therefore you have the control. I don't know, Mr. Baker, maybe you can say something in addition to that. That was just an example.
I think that was awesome. I think that it's the younger people's job to venerate our elders, to celebrate our elders, because a lot of times it's not so much they don't want to tell, they're humble. A lot of people are just humble people. I gave this story about my grandfather, right? And I didn't tell them my grandfather. I said, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named Johnny Dancer, whatever, right? McCullum. And I go through the whole story. And at the end, I said, I'm about to leave class. Oh, yeah, and that's my grandfather. They were like, what? That's your grandfather? They said, that was your grandfather. They said, this is a book? I said, no. I said, because if you would have told my grandfather all this stuff, he was not thinking he was making history. He's not thinking that way. He like, look, I'm working. I'm taking care of my kids. He would have never even sat down and told anybody 3 out of 4 of my kids went to college. And the fourth one, who get ready to college, the fourth one that went, I mean, we always pick because he had one of the bigger houses than everybody. He had all his land and everything, even though he never finished college. So they're all successful. And he would never have thought about it that way. So I think it's on us to start to talk to these people and to start saying, look, we're going to write down your history. We're going to talk about you. Because they're not going to, they're Christian people, most of them, they're humble people. They're not going to talk about themselves. And I just say, I guess for me, why, I don't know. I guess because in my community, it's an all black community, just about, 80%, probably like 90% black, to be honest. My school was 100% black. My school was named after William J. Berry. Dr. William J. Berry, who was a principal a long time, superintendent and administrator a long time ago. I grew up with Black history. They taught a lot of Black history. Some of my teachers were actually in the movement, like, pastors that I grew up around and knowing were like really in the movement, to a point that they were going to NAACP meetings and being put in the back of trunks so that when they wouldn't get stopped on the way and get harassed by police or get killed by police. So grow up with that. And so this is always for us. We love these elders. Now I'm just saying I can only speak where I'm from. I can't speak for everybody. Where I'm from, we to this day we still love each other. We're just country people though. We're just country people. So like cookouts, it's all around Big Mama's house, all around Grandfather's house, whatever. That's and so every time we're gonna sit and say, look, I'm speaking for the McCullum family. That's my mom's side, and every event we have, we sit back and we ask the elders to tell us the history. Every reunion, and we just cook out sometimes too. And I love that about my family. Like I think the oldest one is 80, and she's 82 now. And tell us about the stories. We still have the old house that my great grandfather was on because he actually bought the land and everything. So I just think it's our job to make them feel like your story matters. They don't feel like they did history. One thing that gets me about learning about Black history, especially these people like Stokely and all these guys, in that time, the ones who still alive, they are so humble. That it really trips me out. They are so humble. I had a chance to meet James Meredith. James Meredith is so humble. He does not think he did anything big. I don't want to talk about it very much, about him going to Ole Miss and everything. And I think that they're not going to toot their own horn. They're not going to talk about themselves. It's on us. It's on us to talk to them in private and then to tell their story in public. My uncle, my great uncle, he served the Marine Corps in the Pacific. Some of the most bloodiest, terrible fighting ever. And when I got to be in high school or so, got into history, I said, you fought in World War II. I said, you ever talk about it? Tell me about it. And what he told me. He said, he called me Daniel Lyons then. He said, Daniel Lyons then. So I didn't do nothing over there. He said, I just went over there and by the time I got there, everything was done. And then they asked me, you gonna re-up? I said, no, I'm gonna go home and marry Merrily. This is his wife. So I'm gonna marry Merrily and go home. That's what he told me. Not true. Not true. Grandfather, my great uncle saw terrible combat in the Pacific. Didn't know, because we didn't talk much about it, but he actually suffered from PTSD quite a bit, became a principal and everything, but would not talk about it to me. I mean, seriously, suffered before they even had a term for it. Saw all kind of combat, all kind of stuff, wouldn't talk about it. But I think that's where it's on us to write down their stories. That's one thing that God told the Hebrews. He told them, he said, look, rehearse this to your children. Rehearse this. Because one day they're going to forget about Egypt. They're going to forget where we came from. Rehearse it to your children. And then rehearse it to your children. So it's important that we get these stories, bring it down to our kids so our kids can get these stories so they don't always think that, because Hollywood is going to show us as slaves. That's how Hollywood going to show us. Slaves getting beat. We got to tell, no, there are more stories than just that.
Yes.
More stories than that. And we have to be the ones that, they're not going to talk. So we got to talk for them. I guess I talk enough so I can talk for them.
Well, that's what we do with the programs that we were going into the Head Start centers with. We did not just tell them about slavery, but we wanted them to know that not only did we talked about the rich history. We let them know that we're still yet making history. We did let them know that they too can be a part of history. And so that's, we wanted to implant that. And it's so funny. And I was sharing with, I think I told Celena this. I usually put on Miss Chocolate. She dresses up in her Tupman outfit. And I had on, I do my African attire from different one. So I went to one, they had the little parade out here. And the little kids that was on the float that was in the parade, they were like, there's the Mama Queen. That's the Queen of Africa. She's the African queen. And they're just yelling, that's the African, that's I seen a real African queen. So you can make an impact on them, at this age. And they're super excited about learning about the history. How about Miss Chocolate? Are they excited when they when you go in and you finish up?
Oh yeah. And most of our children don't know the history. They really don't know.
No.
One of the things that I share with the kids is the history behind spirituals, because they don't know. And see, they think that, and even some whites, they see our music, they say, oh, those are sorrow songs. And I said, no, they weren't. Not all of them. A lot of those songs they use to communicate. They use those songs to give directions to the Underground Railroad. So that, I really like that. I just had so much fun here tonight.
Did you? Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I enjoyed it as well. And it was hopefully very informative to our guests, that they feel like they have walked away with a bit of Black history that they did not know. I know that I'm going to go back and listen to it again for some of the things that I missed. Because I tell you, being the host and trying to put this stuff on the screen and watch and to make sure that the scroll back here, the slideshow is rolling like it's supposed to, and the phone, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I feel like I missed some of my own stuff. I have to go back and educate myself. But as you all were talking, I was thinking not just a class for the younger generation. You know, we need a class maybe that you could come and teach us a class, because your storytelling skills, I really enjoyed it when you were talking about your grandfather, because I'm not a history person. I mean, that class, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to take American history. Oh my God, I got to take world still. But it's required. African American history is not. So if we could get enough adults together, maybe we could have you in to give us another time hop, because you was like at this time and this time, and they're gonna kill me if I don't get these dates correct. But you did an awesome job, and I really enjoyed tonight. And I know that Miss Chocolate, she is gonna sing us out. Did y'all have any last words before we go to Miss Chocolate?
I'm just happy to meet y'all. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I've just met you. I'm watching your podcast from now on. I'm trying to get your book. I'm on Amazon right now trying to find your book. So I wrote down your address. But I wanted to say before I left, this is what I didn't tell y'all. Y'all in Picayune, right? My family's from Picayune.
I was getting ready to ask you, was you kin to Jasmine McCullum?
Not the McCullum side. The Baker. The Bakers from Picayune. Yeah, that's my dad is Clinton Baker. Oh man.
Your dad is Clinton, Mr. Clinton?
That's my dad.
Well, okay, wait. So I am filling in the job for Mr. Clinton Baker at the Picayune Cultural Museum.
No. My dad might be another Clinton Baker. There's a lot of Bakers down there. That's my dad. Because my dad is actually, he still lives in Heidelberg.
So Mr. Clinton Baker, wait a minute. No, there's one Clinton Baker.
So my dad's dad is his name was Joseph Clinton Baker. So yeah, that's
okay. Mr. Joseph Clinton Baker, is that Mr. Clinton Baker who started the museum?
Probably not. No, not my
really.
No. But no, my family.
She done got super excited.
Girl, I was like, what? Because he looked like the Bakers. He looked
around
like
Rosa Street. I think around Rosa Street, where they all kind of. But all my family is from down there. Yep, on my dad's side.
So that would be Michelle and all. I know a lot of.
Yes. Well, we'll talk later on. But yeah, that's my dad. My dad is from Picayune, and he actually had a little church down there at one point too.
What's the name of it?
It's closed. Well, oh wow, it was For the Love of God in Picayune, but it's closed. He actually retired. It's another guy pastoring. It's the change name of the church though down there. But he was down there for at least 8 years.
For the love of God, what was that?
What the love of God?
I'm gonna tell you, they actually started. Man, they actually started in the old Head Start building. I think down by Rosa Street, something like that. But it's the old Head Start.
At
the end, by the bus point out and stuff like that.
Oh gosh,
I know the church that was in there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
my dad. My dad is actually his family is all from Picayune. Okay. That's how I'm waiting for you to tell y'all that though. I didn't know that. So
you look at okay. Well, you come on back. Yeah, you come on here.
I enjoyed y'all. Thank y'all so much.
You come on here because we have need of you.
I know that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Amen. Yes, wonderful. All right, Miss Chocolate, take us on out.
Yeah. One of the unique things about the Negro spiritual is the dual meaning of those spirituals. For example, the slave couldn't cuss out the master when they did something wrong, but they could sing stuff like sometimes I feel like a motherless child. like that one. But one of the unique things about those slaves is that they were able to communicate to each other the plans for going to freedom. For example, they sang, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. I ain't got long to stay here. Now, the master thought they were talking about stealing away to Jesus. He was talking about stealing away up north and getting out that plantation. See, and when Harriet Tubman began to communicate with the slave, now you have to remember Harriet could not read nor write, and she had no maps, so the slaves had to listen for the music to know what was going on, the directions, like, gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. That's where they were meeting. Now, the master thought they were talking about going to get baptized, but that's where they were going to meet. And when they gathered there, Harriet would have them to cussle up their, roll up their pants and pull up their dresses, what they have, and they would go, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. Master thought they were baptizing, but they was getting out of there. and that's how they communicated. Of course, Martin Luther King ended up his famous "I Have a Dream" speech with the words to one of my favorite spirituals: "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last." Thank you.
Thank you, Miss
That's
Chocolate.
awesome.
Thank you so very much. I think that concludes our Black History episode on tonight. I enjoyed it. I thank each and every one of my guests for taking the time and being patient and just supporting each other's story. That's what it takes. We have to support one another. And I just want to throw in there, I know Mr. Baker was saying how we got to go grab the information from the older people. That is so beneficial because the generation right now, we're so into electronics. That's all that they're interested in. I saw somebody filming like a wedding or something, and all you could see in that one video was everybody else with their phones. Everybody else with their phones. Like, you're missing the moment trying to capture the moment. It's like, I don't know, something has to change. Something has to change in order for us not to continue to lose history along the way, because I can't imagine it just being a bunch of cell phones come later down the road. What are they going to talk about? Fortnite? That's all that they know, these video games and just stuff like that. I just don't want us to lose the history, and so we just have to figure out a way to have those conversations and get kids and the parents and the grandparents to talking again. No one throws the phones away and sit at a table. I mean, what is that? A kitchen table to sit around and talk, so that all of that information doesn't end up in the grave the way that Vinny was talking about. So this has been wonderful. Okay, thank you, girl. Kim says this has been wonderful. Thank you. So we're just going to go ahead and close out. Hopefully you all will be willing to come back again and join conversations with Celena. But in the meantime, keep it smiling, sunshine. Mwah. Y'all have a great night.